bit fast off the mark there. You're watching France 24. It is time to look now at the papers. I guess the reason I was such in a hurry was because Yves Irvine is here. And where else but in France would you have philosophers write your daily newspaper?
Absolutely, Francois. Well, today's Libération, as you can see, I'm holding it up, has given its journalists the day off and handed over its pages to philosophers such as Bernard-Henri Lévy, and they've written it. The occasion of it is because the Cité Philo has just opened in Lille. It's a 3-week festival of philosophy, so that's why. So there's some nice angled articles in that in this morning's Libé, but because we talk of the French press a lot, I thought we might just move on very quickly this morning to your top story all morning, that of Georgia's emergency rule imposed yesterday. So we looked at some reactions from across the world. In Russia's Kommersant today, they run an article entitled "Choosing Between the Evils." In this article it says that actually nobody can be the winner in Georgia at the moment. President Mikhail Saakashvili, he can't come out of it well, because if he goes with the opposition, he'll damage his party's running in forthcoming elections. But if he cracked down really hard, he's going to be seen more and more as a dictator, and that will work against him. And they say the opposition aren't looking fantastic either, because all that's really uniting them is their opposition to Saakashvili. So that's their reaction. Then the rose reversal is also being picked up in the Australian today. It looks more at the threat of these moves to American policy, that's saying that Washington is now cornered into either supporting a president that is less and less popular, or letting him slide, letting their allies slide into deeper chaos. So that's what they're looking at there.
So you talk about presidents who are less and less popular. That brings us naturally to Pakistan.
Yes, the other emergency rule imposed this week. Another interesting article actually in the Australian, staying with that paper, there's an editorial by their foreign editor. He compares Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf to a former leader in Indonesia, Suharto, if I've pronounced it properly, who ruled in the 1960s. And he says that while both these men were a dictator, and Musharraf is a dictator, he says Musharraf hasn't kept to his promises. He hasn't delivered on fighting terrorism. He hasn't brought the country to a democracy. And moreover, he says the army is in a worse state than it was before, because now they're very good at beating judges, I quote, beating up judges, but they fall to pieces when opposed by military forces. But he says the Suharto in Indonesia was a dictator, but he did build up the country and leave it able to take over as a democracy.
And finally, good news for those of us who like to eat.
Absolutely. Doctors in America say that it is good to be fat. Now, they're not saying it's good to be obese, but just to be a little bit overweight. So then if you get
pleasantly
injured...
plump.
Exactly, pleasantly plump. So then if you get injured or you get infections, your body has that extra bit of reserve to fight it. That's the main story there.
And do we have time to
there's
talk
another.
about
the front page of the Guardian newspaper today got
yeah.
my attention as well. There's an MP who has just resigned in probably one of the most original resignation letters of all time. He gave up his post in the Ministry of Defence to become a race car driver. He wants to take part in Le Mans 24-hour race. He's 47-year-old, and his team manager says his bravery is outstanding. He goes as fast as any of the professionals.
Talk about a midlife crisis, Yves Irvine.
Well, that's what his wife is saying it is, actually.
Okay. Thanks for that look at the morning papers from around the globe, Yves Irvine. And stay with us right here on France 24. There's much more news coming up with Catherine Galloway.